Jaden Yuki, the hero amongst heroes and the master of the elemental heroes. Throughout his 3 years at Duel Academy, Jaden underwent a series of harrowing adventures that left him scarred, changed, and spiritually bound to a demonic entity that was his past incarnation's spirit guardian. It's been 16 years since he graduated from Duel Academy and set out on a new journey of self-discovery, and the elemental hero archetype he made famous has changed tremendously in that time. So today, we're going to be taking a look at the cards that he might have used if his story continued into the modern day. To begin, there are a few old favorites that we need to bring back, like Jaden's signature monsters, elemental hero Neos, and Yubel. Neos was a unique hero who became the centerpiece of Jaden's Neospatian hero deck in the latter half of GX, while Yubel is a dual monster spirit from Jaden's past life. The two joined spirits at the conclusion of the Dimension World storyline, permanently bonding them to one another. So no matter what, it's unlikely he'd ever move away from these cards going forward. Neos is predominantly used to fuse with other monsters, while Yubel cannot be destroyed by battle and reflects any battle damage it should take back at the opponent. This card does have a tribute cost of 1 monster per turn to stay on the field. If it's destroyed by means other than its own effect, Jaden can upgrade Yubel by summoning Yubel Terror Incarnate, who we'll get to later. Neos Wiseman is a sort of fusion of these two cards, though not actually a fusion monster that lives in the extra deck. It's summoned by sending elemental hero Neos and Yubel on your field to the grave. It can't be destroyed by card effects, and when it battles an enemy monster, that enemy monster's attack points are deducted from its owner's life points and given to Neos Wiseman's user. Switching focus to Neos for a second, we have 2 additional Neos cards, with those being elemental heroes Honest Neos and Spirit of Neos. Honest was a monster spirit belonging to the Duel Academy student Fujiwara, who went missing during the abandoned dorm incident. He later returned, possessed by the Spirit of Darkness, at which point Honest joined forces with Jaden to create Honest Neos. This monster has 2 effects. It can be discarded to give another hero monster on the field 2,500 extra attack points until the end of the turn. Or, if it's on the field, you can discard another hero monster to give this card that hero's attack points until the end of the turn. Spirit of Neos can be special summoned in defense mode when an enemy monster attacks, and if it's summoned this way, it can't be destroyed by battle. If it's special summoned, its owner can add a polymerization card or a spell or trap card that mentions elemental hero Neos to their hand from the deck. Lastly, it can be sent from the field back into the deck to special summon a normal elemental hero monster straight from the deck. And in this deck profile, that pretty much just means elemental hero Neos. We also have the Spirit of Yubel, which, much like the main Yubel card, can't be destroyed by battle and prevents damage from any battles that it's in. It can be special summoned when the opponent declares an attack, and if it's special summoned, the duelist who controls it can add a Yubel spell card or trap card from the deck to the hand. When it's destroyed, its owner can special summon Yubel from the hand, deck, graveyard, or even the banished zone. But let's talk about why we're really here. Jaden is, first and foremost, an elemental hero player, so we've got an assortment of elemental heroes in his lineup, with those being elemental heroes Prisma, Stratos, Ocean, Liquid Soldier, Solid Soldier, Woodsman, and Blazeman. All of these heroes have their own unique effects and serve as fodder for fusion monsters in Jaden's never-ending extra deck. Prisma can change its name to become a fusion monster's fusion material. Stratos can destroy spells and traps on the field, or add a hero monster from the deck to the hand. Ocean can recover a hero from the grave back to the hand. Liquid Soldier can recover a hero in the grave back to the field, and can add cards to the hand when it's used as a fusion material. Solid Soldier can special summon a low-level hero alongside it when it's summoned, and if it's destroyed by a spell, it can be used to special summon another hero in the grave. Woodsman adds a polymerization card to the hand during each standby phase, and Blazeman adds a polymerization card to the hand when it's summoned. It can also be used to send a hero from the deck to the grave so that it can take on the attack, defense, and attribute of that hero, making it a wild card for elemental fusion summons. And after that, we have Jaden's other primary archetype, the Neospatians, with those being Neospatians Aqua Dolphin, Dark Panther, Air Hummingbird, Grand Mole, Flare Scarab, and Glowmoss. These cards are meant to predominantly fuse with elemental hero Neos using a technique called contact fusion, where the fusion occurs without a card like polymerization. Aqua Dolphin can be used to destroy a monster in your opponent's hand if you control a stronger one, and burns the enemy for 500 points of damage in the process. Dark Panther can steal an enemy monster's name and effect once per turn. Air Hummingbird restores 500 life points for each card in the opponent's hand. Grand Mole sends itself and any enemy monster that it battles back to the hand or the extra deck to cancel out combat. Flare Scarab gains 400 attack points for each spell or trap on the enemy field. And Glow Moss forces the enemy to draw a card when it battles and has a different effect based on the card type. If it's a monster, the battle phase ends immediately. If it's a spell, Glow Moss can attack the enemy directly if it was the one who initiated the attack. And if it's a trap card, Glow Moss switches to defense mode. We also have Neospace Connector, a little baby Neos card that can special summon a Neospatian or elemental hero Neos from the hand or deck when it's summoned. It can also be tributed to special summon a Neospatian or elemental hero Neos in the grave. Best of all, you can use both of these effects in a single turn, meaning that this card can set up a Neos fusion by itself in a single turn if you already have one of the materials that you need in the graveyard. Cross Keeper can be sent to the grave in order to special summon an elemental hero or Neospatian, but its effects are negated if it's special summoned from the grave. It can also be banished from the grave to add 2 cards to the hand in exchange for putting 1 card from your hand at the bottom of your deck if you special summon an elemental hero fusion monster. Last, but certainly not least, we have Winged Kuriboh. Yugi Moto gave Jaden this Winged Kuriboh card in the opening scene of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, but times have changed, and we're gonna say that this little guy hit the gym to become Winged Kuriboh level 6. In this deck profile, it can be special summoned by banishing an elemental hero fusion monster from the field or grave, and it can be tributed from the field to destroy a monster who's activated its effect. That monster's attack points are then deducted from its owner's life points, and, as an added bonus, this monster is always treated as an elemental hero monster. And just look how he's wearing a little Flame Wingman costume. Hi there, little guy. Okay, so that does it for monsters. Moving on to spells, we have several fusion cards, including Polymerization, Miracle Fusion, Neos Fusion, Miracle Contact, Contact Gate, Overfusion, and Super Polymerization. Polymerization is your bog standard fusion card. Miracle Fusion is specific to hero monsters and can use materials from the field or the grave, but at the cost of being banished instead of destroyed. Neos Fusion special summons a fusion monster that requires elemental hero Neos by sending the materials to the grave from the hand, deck, or field. This card can be banished from the grave to protect a Neos Fusion card from being destroyed by battle, card effects, or being shuffled into the extra deck 1 time. Miracle Contact summons an elemental hero Neos Fusion by shuffling the materials into the deck from the hand, field, or graveyard. Contact Gate banishes 2 different Neospatians from the graveyard in order to special summon 2 other Neospatians from the hand, deck, or graveyard. This card can also be banished from the grave if a fusion monster that requires elemental hero Neos as its material goes from the field to the extra deck so that you can special summon a banished Neospatian monster. Overfusion can be used to exchange a monster on the field's name to that of an elemental hero or Neospatian in your hand, deck, or extra deck if it's going to be used as a fusion material that turn. The monster whose name is changed is sent to the grave if you already have an elemental hero Neos on the field, but if you don't, it's shuffled back into the deck. And Super Polymerization is a story-specific card created by Yubel and Jaden's darker personality, the Supreme King. It can be used to fusion summon using monsters on both players' side of the field. Additionally, we have some returning favorite spells like Neospace, Emergency Call, and A Hero Lives. Neospace is a field spell that supports Neospatian fusion monsters by removing their drawback effect, which we'll touch on more when we get to the extra deck. Emergency adds 1 elemental hero from the deck to the hand, while A Hero Lives lets you pay half of your life points to special summon a low-level elemental hero from the deck. We've also got 3 EN spells, with those being EN Shuffle, EN Wave, and EN Engage Neospace. Shuffle allows the user to shuffle an elemental hero or Neospatian monster into the deck in order to special summon a different one from the deck. It can also be banished from the grave to shuffle a hero or Neospatian from the grave into the deck and then draw a card. Meanwhile, EN Wave lets you special summon a Neospatian or elemental hero Neos from the deck when you perform an elemental hero fusion. It can also let you special summon an elemental hero from the grave if elemental hero Neos or a Neospatian are shuffled into your deck. So this can actually combo off of EN Shuffle really nicely. And EN Engage Neospace lets you send 1 elemental hero or Neospatian from your hand and 1 from your deck to the grave to special summon another Neospatian or high-level elemental hero from the deck and add a Polymerization card to the hand from the deck or the grave. If you use this card to summon elemental hero Neos, it gains an extra 1,000 attack points. Favorite Hero is an equip spell that works in tandem with your field spell zone. It can only be used by a level 5 or higher hero monster, and, during the battle phase, it can be used to activate a field spell directly from your hand or deck. If you have a field spell on your side of the board, the equipped monster gains attack points equal to its original defense points, and it cannot be targeted by card effects. When the monster equipped with this card destroys an enemy monster by battle, this card can be tributed to give its user a second attack that turn. Moving on to trap cards, Magistry Alchemist lets you banish 4 hero monsters from the grave or field to special summon a hero monster in the grave, and, bonus, if the 4 banished monsters were Earth, Wind, Fire, and Water attribute monsters, the monster you summon gets double the attack points and negates the effects of all face-up monsters on your opponent's field. Favorite Contact lets you special summon a fusion monster that has a hero monster as a material by placing its material monster at the bottom of the deck. If Neos was one of the materials put at the bottom of the deck, the monster this card summoned can't be returned to the extra deck. Eternal Favorite allows the user to special summon a Yubel monster that has been banished or is in the grave, or, if you already control Yubel, you can discard a card to fusion summon a monster that uses Yubel as its material. And last but not least, Protection of the Elements activates when a spell or trap is activated, allowing the user to banish 1 face-up elemental hero for the rest of the turn to negate and destroy the spell or trap card. If you control an elemental hero Terra Firma, you can banish this card from the grave to special summon an elemental hero in the hand, grave, or banish zone. And that does it for the main deck. Moving along to Jaden's side deck, we've got Yubel's 2 upgraded forms, Yubel, Terror Incarnate, and Yubel, the Ultimate Nightmare. Terror Incarnate is special summoned by the regular Yubel card effect. During your end phase, this card destroys all monsters on the field, and when it leaves the field, it lets you summon the Ultimate Nightmare. That card destroys any monster that it attacks. Like the regular Yubel card, Terror Incarnate and the Ultimate Nightmare can't be destroyed by battle, don't let you take battle damage when other monsters attack them, and inflict the enemy monster's attack points back on their own life points as damage. Yubel's also gotten a few support monsters over the years that we're going to include in the side deck, like Geistgrinder Golem, Gruesome Grave Squirmer, and Samsara D. Lotus. Geistgrinder Golem can be special summoned to your opponent's field by revealing a Yubel card in your hand, which also lets you special summon that Yubel monster to your side of the field. If this monster battles Yubel, its opponent, meaning you, gains 3,000 life points. And if you special summon Yubel while this card is in your grave, it's automatically special summoned back to your opponent's field. So in essence, what we've got here is a high attack power monster that you can give your opponent when you have a battle immune monster on your side of the field, and who you can attack just to give yourself 3,000 life points. And it has a resurrection clause to do the whole dance over again. Eat your heart out, Lava Golem. Gruesome Grave Squirmer can be special summoned if you control another fiend monster, and can be used to destroy a fiend monster on your field, essentially allowing you to force Yubel to upgrade into one of its greater forms. Or, if you haven't gotten that far yet, Squirmer can be banished from the grave to summon another fiend monster with 0 attack and defense points, letting you get the original Yubel out onto the field. And Samsara D. Lotus can be tributed to summon a Yubel monster from the deck. If an enemy activates a monster effect while you control Yubel, this card can be tributed to change the enemy effect to destroy 1 Yubel monster on the field, also forcing Yubel to upgrade to a higher form. And if this card is in the grave while you control Yubel, you can recover this card to your hand or special summon it. So it's another gift that keeps on giving. And we've got some Yubel spell and trap card support like Nightmare Pain, Mature Chronicle, and Nightmare Throne. Nightmare Pain lets you destroy a dark monster in your hand or on the field to add a Yubel card to your hand. If you already control a Yubel monster, your opponent's monsters are forced to attack it, not only triggering Yubel's burn effects, but also they take whatever damage you'd normally have taken from battle. So it's a double burn effect. Mature Chronicle collects counters when a Yubel monster is special summoned, and you can remove counters to activate a variety of effects. One counter lets you special summon Yubel from your grave, which actually gives you a counter back, so essentially this is a free action. Removing 2 counters lets you add a banished card back to your hand. Removing 3 counters lets you banish a card from your deck. Removing 4 counters lets you destroy a card on the field. And removing 5 counters lets you add a super polymerization card from your deck to your hand. And last for the Yubel cards, we have 2 Yubel fusion monsters, Phantom of Yubel and Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever. Phantom of Yubel is a fusion monster that is summoned by shuffling a Yubel monster and another fiend with 0 attack and defense points into the deck. It can also be tributed to replace an enemy monster's effect with a new one that forces them to destroy a Yubel monster in their own hand, field, or deck. 99% of the time, no one's going to have that, so for all intents and purposes, it's a negate card. Since Jaden has the only copies of the Yubel cards, I think this one's a little bit of a stretch to include, but whatever, I like it. The Loving Defender Forever can be summoned by fusing a Yubel monster with any number of effect monsters on your field, and burns the enemy for 500 points of damage for each material used. If this card battles an enemy monster, it burns the enemy for that monster's attack points, and the monster is banished. Both of these Yubel fusion cards share all of the other Yubel cards' protection from battle and battle damage, meaning a lot of these effects rely on you forcing an attack that you can't lose. Nice! Now technically, that's only 10 cards in the side deck, and there should be 15. But the other 5 cards are all Elemental Hero fusion monsters, because Jaden just has a ridiculous variety of hero combinations at his disposal. So we're going to move on to a 20-card extra deck, and if you bother to build this deck for yourself, you can decide which 5 cards end up in the side deck instead. The first 6 cards are actually some of my favorites, the Omni Heroes, with those being Elemental Heroes The Shining, Escuridaio, Gaia, Great Tornado, Absolute Zero, and Nova Master. All of these monsters are summoned by fusing an Elemental Hero monster with another monster of the correct attribute. The Shining gains attack points for each of your banished monsters, while Escuridaio gains attack points for each of your heroes in your grave. Gaia can steal half the attack points from an enemy monster, while Great Tornado halves the attack and defense of all face-up monsters on the enemy's field when it's summoned. Absolute Zero destroys all monsters on the enemy field when it goes to the grave, and Nova Master lets you draw a card when it destroys an enemy monster in battle. These cards make a lot more sense for Jaden to run instead of the old hero fusions that require specific monster combinations in order to bring out. There are also the Neospatian fusions, with those being Elemental Heroes Chaos Neos, Nebula Neos, Storm Neos, Magma Neos, and Cosmo Neos. These are the advanced stage Neospatian fusions, each requiring Elemental Hero Neos and more than one Neospatian to summon. You don't use a polymerization card or anything like that to bring them out, but the downside is that they all go back to the extra deck at the end of the turn where they're summoned, unless you're using that Neospace card that I mentioned earlier. Chaos Neos is summoned by fusing Neos with Neospatian's Dark Panther and Glowmoss. Its effect lets you toss a coin 3 times. If all of them are heads, you destroy all of your opponent's monsters. If 2 of them are heads, all of your opponent's monster effects are negated. But if you only get 1 heads, all of your monsters go back to the hand. So high risk, high reward. If this card is shuffled back into the deck, all monsters on the field are switched to face-down defense position. Nebula Neos is formed by fusing Elemental Hero Neos, Neospatian Grand Mole, and Neospatian Dark Panther. When this card is summoned, you can draw cards equal to the number of cards that your opponent controls, then negate the effects of 1 face-up monster on the field until the end of the turn. At the end of the turn, when this card is shuffled into the extra deck, you can banish all face-down cards on the field. Storm Neos is summoned by fusing Neos with Neospatian's Aqua Dolphin and Air Hummingbird. It can destroy all spells and traps on the field once per turn. If it's shuffled into the extra deck, all other cards on the field are shuffled into their respective decks as well. Magma Neos is summoned by fusing Neospatian's Flare Scarab and Grand Mole. It gains 400 attack points for each card on the field, and if it's shuffled into the extra deck, all other cards on the field are returned to the hand. And Cosmo Neos is summoned by fusing Neos with any 3 different Neospatians. When it's special summoned, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects. If this card is shuffled into the extra deck, it destroys all cards on the enemy field. We've also got Elemental Heroes Neos Kluger and Brave Neos. Neos Kluger is summoned by fusing Neos with Yubel. If it battles an enemy monster, it burns the enemy for that monster's attack points. And if this card is destroyed by an enemy's card effect, you can special summon Neos Wiseman from the deck or hand. Elemental Hero Brave Neos is formed by fusing Neos with a level 4 or lower effect monster. It gains attack points for each hero or Neospatian in the grave, and when it destroys an enemy monster by battle, it can add a Neo spell or trap card to the hand. Elemental Hero Terra Firma is Jaden's ace monster from the manga, where Neos never appeared. It's formed by fusing Elemental Heroes Ocean and Woodsman, and contribute another Elemental Hero monster on its field in order to gain that hero's attack points. Next is a personal favorite of mine, Elemental Hero Sunrise. Any 2 heroes with different attributes can be used to summon it. It gains 200 attack points for each attribute on your field, including its own. When it's summoned, you can add Miracle Fusion from your deck to your hand. And when any attack is declared involving another one of your hero monsters, this card can target and destroy any card on the field. One of my favorite opening plays with this card is to summon it using Polymerization, use its effect to get Miracle Fusion, and then play Miracle to summon a different monster using the exact same 2 materials. That always feels really cool. Now back in the day, Jaden used to run Elemental Heroes Flame Wingman and Shining Flare Wingman as staples of his lineup. But in this profile, we're going to say that he upgraded them and now he's running their retrains, Elemental Hero Flame Wingman Infernal Rage and Elemental Hero Shining Neos Wingman. Infernal Rage is summoned by fusing 2 Elemental Heroes of different attributes. When it's special summoned, the owner can add a card with the word Favorite into their hand from the deck or the grave. If this card was summoned using a normal type monster as its material, it can be tributed to summon a level 7 or lower elemental hero from the deck. Shining Neos Wingman, on the other hand, is summoned by fusing Neos with a Wingman monster, which in this deck basically means Flame Wingman Infernal Rage. It gains 300 attack points for every monster in the owner's grave and can't be destroyed by card effects. When it's special summoned, it can also destroy cards on the field up to the number of different attributes on the field. Harkening back to the final days of GX, I imagine Jaden would still be running Elemental Hero Divine Neos. This monster is basically Jaden's equivalent to a god card, and is summoned by using 5 monsters from the Neos, Neospace, Neospatian, or Hero archetypes, including at least one of each. Each turn, it can banish a monster that could have been used as one of its fusion materials from the grave in order to gain 500 points and gain that monster's effect. Then for good measure, we're going to include 1 Link monster, just in case Jaden ever finds himself going into the Vrains. Extra Hero Wonder Driver is a Link 2 monster that requires 2 heroes to summon. If a hero monster is summoned to a zone that this card points to, you can take a fusion card from your grave and set it in your spell and trap card zone. Furthermore, if this card is destroyed by battle, or it's in your possession and destroyed by an enemy's card effect, you can special summon 1 hero monster that's in your hand. And last, but certainly not least, we have a card that could only ever belong to Jaden. Wake Up Your Elemental Hero. This monster is summoned by fusing an Elemental Hero monster with any number of warrior monsters, which almost all of the Elemental Hero monsters are, and it gains 300 attack points for every material used as part of its summoning. It can also attack once per turn for every material that was used, and, similar to the original Flame Wingman, if it destroys an enemy monster, it inflicts battle damage and their attack points as damage to the enemy. And as the cherry on top, when it's fusion summoned, you can special summon a warrior monster from the deck or the hand. And that brings us to the end of Jaden Yuki's modern deck profile. Honestly, there are so many other cards that I would have loved to include here. The original core Elemental Heroes, the newer Elemental Hero Grand Merge, the masked heroes. And that's not even mentioning all the cards that Jaden could piggyback off of from his friends' decks, like Elemental Hero Rainbow Neos and Armed Neos, which he'd theoretically used with Jesse Anderson and Chaz Princeton. And then there's the whole lineup of evil hero monsters Jaden used during his brief stint as the Supreme King, but we'll need to explore all of those in another video. But what do you think about the cards in this deck profile? Are these the sort of cards you think Jaden would use today, or are there other cards you prefer to see us swap in instead? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe bell thing if you want to see more modern deck profiles in the future. You can find this deck profile available on YGO Pro and a strategy guide on how to use it most effectively down below in the description. A huge shout out to Wham Bam Duel for helping me create this profile. You can find a link to his channel also below in the description. We'll be hard at work putting together next week's modern Yusei Fudo deck profile. So again, do the subscribe thing if you want to see that, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!